Hi everyone, welcome back to the Red Blossom Tea channel. Today we'll look at Gongfu cha style of brewing tea. Gongfu cha style is the traditional Chinese method of making tea using smaller vessels. Gongfu means the effort and skill, and cha means tea. So the advantages of making tea in these traditional vessels is it gives us a lot more control. When we add hot water in, we can pour it out a little bit quicker. So with the multiple vessels, you can get the ideal taste. At the end of the day, when we're making tea, it's all about the flavor. So when we have more control in making these teas, we can then get the best flavor. In the case of green tea, you're getting the buttery creaminess. In the case of black tea, you're still getting that rich, thick flavor without having the tannins or any of the bitterness. So in Gongfu cha style making tea, you'll need the brewing vessel. Here I have a gaiwan. Gaiwan is the lid bowl. And the yixing pot. So we brew teas in either this tea bowl or a smaller pot like this. Then we'll need a server. So this is often called the fairness server because you'll brew the tea in here and decant into the server. And we'll need smaller tasting cups. The cups and the teaware is all quite small compared to the Western style. So Western style means we have a pot this big. This is a traditional English teapot. Compared to the yixing pot is very small. So most people come in to our shop and assume that these are more for play. You know, a lot of the kids think, oh, this is a tiny little teapot they'll use versus what they're familiar with, a big pot like this. But if you were to brew a flavor tea, or if you were to use a tea bag, then you could use a traditional teapot like this, add very hot water in and steep it for 5 or 10 minutes. You'll pull out more of the tannins, the bitterness, the flavors, and it's fine for a bag tea because most people would sweeten it or add milk. And the focus is more really about the sweets that you would have with the tea rather than the tea itself. So if we were to brew green tea, the most traditional way of brewing green tea is this Gongfu cha style. We'll put the green tea into the gaiwan. With a white tea bowl like this, we can see how fresh these leaves are. So then we'll add hot water in, and after about a minute, we'll decant. So I'm going to demonstrate by brewing it Gongfu cha style. So I'll use the lid to stir the leaves around. And within 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how strong you would like your tea to be, then we'll decant into the server. I usually decant after I see the leaves rehydrate, release a lot of its buttery creaminess, and then I'll halt the steep time by pouring the liquid out. And then we'll pour it into these smaller cups. So Gongfu cha requires several steps. We brew in one, we pour it into another, and then pour it into the cups. Now when I want another cup of tea after drinking this, then I'll add hot water into here and do a second brew. The advantage of doing it this way is it will give me the perfect temperature. So I'm not brewing a big pot, drinking 1 cup, and then the rest of the tea is sitting in this pot cooling down and over steeping. Sometimes if you're drinking the first cup in the English style method, it's so hot that you couldn't even pick it up. That's why there are handles and there's a saucer for you to hold it in. But this method of brewing is convenient for some teas, but not for all. For Chinese teas, when it comes to pure loose leaf teas, Gongfu cha is still ideal because when we're adding hot water in the second time and decanting, oftentimes the second steep has even more flavor. So one way we could check the quality is by reusing the leaves again and not wasting it. But we're working with different teas for brewing. That's why the different vessels are necessary. If you're having the teas that have so much flavor and you don't reuse them again, it's a little bit of a waste. When we brew it Gongfu cha style, it does seem to require more time, but it's actually a lot quicker because we're actually using a smaller amount of leaves to a small amount of water. So it's much closer. The ratio is closer, so we're getting a richer, thicker flavor. Similar to if I were to take broccoli and do a quick saute or stir fry, and then with a hot pan, I can cook this faster and then I can remove it and we'll still taste the sweetness and the crunch of something very fresh and green. If I were to take a large pot and then throw a lot of the broccoli in and cook it longer, then we'll get this kind of wilty, mushy, sulfurous flavor. It's not as tasty. So Gongfu cha is similar to how we would cook vegetables. And when it comes to teas like this, Gongfu cha is still ideal because you can make it quickly and have this particular tea now to enjoy. And then maybe later on, if I feel like having a stronger cup of tea, I would brew a different tea rather than making a large pot and having to continue to drink it. It's hard to reheat a tea. You could microwave it, I suppose, but it wouldn't be very tasty. So it's much easier to make a fresh batch and it's less wasteful. But the flavor of this cup of tea is much richer. It's creamy. I pick up a lot more of the finish. It's rich and thick. It's not diluted. So it's much more rewarding to enjoy for a cup of tea rather than having a diluted bitter taste. If you want to read a little more about Gongfu cha style, please visit our website, or of course you could follow us on our YouTube channel.